Can reverse curse technique heal the soul in Jujutsu Kaisen? Throughout the series, there have been very subtle details about the soul. It has been very vague how this topic ties in not only in a narrative sense, but also in regards to the power system. And today I wanted to look into debunking soul damage and the limits of reverse curse technique. This is something very interesting because a lot of fans are invested in theories in how the soul can or cannot be healed. So I wanted to approach this analysis with all the relevant facts that we have on the subject. Now let's first talk a little about Sukuna and his connection with the soul. It is a very popular theory that Sukuna harms the soul when he attacks and also when he uses his curse technique. This is because back in chapter 30, Sukuna's soul is immune to Mahito's auto transfiguration, which morphs the soul and was able to hurt Mahito's soul using his curse technique within that innate domain. Sukuna's soul is leagues stronger than Mahito's, and it was already mentioned that those who can perceive the contours of the soul are able to harm Mahito. This is why Yuji and Sukuna are his natural enemies. Further evidence for Sukuna is how almost every human sorcerer that he attacked has failed to use reverse curse technique by themselves or with help from others in order to heal from their wounds that they got inflicted by Sukuna. Inumaki, who was hit by Malevolent Shrine, and Hana Kurozu, who had her arm bitten off, are both prime examples for Sukuna victims that cannot recover from this quote-unquote soul damage. So it may be possible for Sukuna to damage the soul. It definitely should be something to consider. However, I do not actually think this is the case, especially given the recent chapters with Gojo. He healed from it no problem, but you know, Gojo is Gojo. There is plenty of evidence that this soul damage is either just meaningless or it is actually something that can be healed. But before anything further, let's get into the topics for today. We will consider number 1, Jogo and Mahito's statement about reverse curse technique and the soul. The second point, the limits of reverse curse technique. And the third point, examples of why soul damage can be healed. This gets a bit nuanced and complicated, so keep in mind things can always change moving forward. In chapter 112, Jogo stated, even if reverse curse technique can heal others, Mahito's idle transfiguration technique isn't something that can be fixed. So this confirms Mahito's soul transfiguration is beyond the limits of reverse curse technique. Transfiguration is changing the structure of a soul. So does that mean damaging the soul cannot be healed? Well, no, it's still in a different context. Even Mahito's line in chapter 27 is actually a slight mistranslation because Mahito actually implies reverse curse technique can't do anything about reshaping the soul. As it was mentioned, Jogo confirms this again later on, so reverse curse technique cannot heal soul transfiguration. So Mahito can change you into a caterpillar or some sort of crazy Pokemon monster, and at that point, reverse curse technique is not an option anymore. But what if your soul was damaged or cut by, let's say, Sukuna's technique or Maki's soul split katana? See, in that situation, in regards to damage, it's a different case because it's still kind of unconfirmed how this reacts. Just to be clear though, there is soul transfiguration and then there is soul damage. They are two different things. In terms of reverse curse technique, this is merely multiplication of negative cursed energy to create an output of positive cursed energy, and this positive creation is used to heal the flesh of human sorcerers. But I think the severity and how much they can heal may answer why Inumaki and why Angel did not get their limbs back. It might not actually be because of the soul. As far as regenerating body parts like limbs or organs, only around 3 sorcerers have done this on a major level. Sukuna is the most impressive as he can live without his heart, he can regenerate his heart, and easily regenerate a lost limb. Akari can also regen his limbs in jackpot mode and even heal his brain while it gets destroyed, which is equally impressive. And finally, Kenjaku easily healed his lost arm after it was blown off by Yuki. These 3 are the only human sorcerers who have healed a completely dismembered limb. and they are all extreme examples with top tier reverse curse technique. I'm certain Gojo can do this too given all of his feats, but these are the only humans who are shown to have regened limbs. Before you ask in the comments, yes, there are very minor injuries where sources created small body parts. Yuta healed his burnt off fingers. Hazanoki quite literally spams reverse curse technique when healing his body parts like his eyes and teeth, and even minor occurrences like Yuji gaining his pinky finger and his right ear back, though that seems like a drawing error on Gege's part. But I digress. When I tell you guys this is so incredibly nuanced and trivial, it is pretty crazy how subtle this is. But when a sorcerer has to regenerate their entire limb back, it's pretty damn hard. Ryu confirms that it is a top tier feat, and I'd argue it's still hard to do even when people like Shoko and Yuta can heal others with their reverse curse technique output. There's only so much that they can do. And in Jujutsu Kaisen 0, Maki did not completely lose her leg. With how it's drawn, it looks like her leg was wrung out or mangled, but it's still connected to her body. And Yuki's right arm was also mangled, and in both instances, the reverse curse user was able to heal the injury. There is a huge difference when a limb is still attached versus when it is completely dismembered. Recovering a lost limb is not at all as simple as it seems. But a stronger piece of evidence in favor that soul damage cannot be healed is actually through Hakari, and let me explain. If the combined efforts of both Yuta and Shoko could not heal Inumaki's arm, it could not heal Hana's arm, why were they able to heal Hakari's arm? At that point, Hakari had no way to use domain expansion and thus no jackpot reverse curse technique. But there actually is some counter arguments to consider with that. One being that Hakari had another way to use domain expansion besides how he used it originally. He could have used a single-handed seal like Gojo does, or had another marker or seal like Higuruma or Dagon does with their domains. That's a heck of a crazy feat considering Hakari would have to learn that in only 7 days, so I do doubt that a bit. The second being that Hakari also made a binding vow to sacrifice his left arm so the rest of his body survived Kishimo's explosion. So what's very likely is that this binding vow allowed his arm to be recovered at a later time. Hakari himself is certain that it would be fixed later on, so there may actually be some certain conditions or even a time limit in place which an injury has to be healed with reverse curse technique before it is too late. Though for the last point of this video, we will consider some examples and Kenjaku's statement in chapter 91. Kenjaku said, "The body is the soul and the soul the body." So if reverse curse technique could heal the body, theoretically, it should also heal the user's soul as well. A lot of fans think a person has to have awareness of the soul as well to perform this feat. This may be true because maybe Shoko or Yuta cannot heal soul damage without first knowledge of the soul. So maybe that's why Shoko's reverse curse technique only goes so far, but I don't think it's that complicated if it's even true at all. If we were to consider that Sukuna has this soul damage, the Finger Bearer curse healed from it, Jogo healed from it, Mahoraga healed from it, and Gojo has been shown to completely heal from this quote-unquote soul damage. Even curses have souls, and curses merely regenerate using basic negative cursed energy. Mahoraga is a special case to where he adapts to the phenomena of slashing, so he will automatically regenerate. But then you'd consider, does soul damage trump the Dharma Chakra's adaptation or vice versa? You see how complicated that can be? And I don't even think Mahoraga is a true cursed spirit. And of course, Gojo has already shown and managed to just simply use reverse curse technique against Sukuna's domain expansion, and there was no mention of the soul or anything. Unless Sukuna chooses to turn soul damage on and off like some switch, there's really nothing more going on here. Hell, if you get more technical, look at Cursed Naoya. Maki has a curse tool that specifically cuts the soul, and Daido is implied to be a user that has eyes that can perceive the souls of inanimate objects, so he can cut the soul as well. And Daido cut Naoya's soul in half, yet Naoya's spirit form managed to heal from it. And the second time Naoya was cut, Naoya's quote-unquote human body popped out from that form. you might be able to argue maybe Naoya keeps morphing where his real quote-unquote soul is in other places within his cursed body. But no, I actually think bypassing toughness and cutting the soul directly is probably more in regard to that physical slicing damage. So it might be something that can be healed, but it cannot be guarded against with like reinforcement and toughness. Of course, a curse or a sorcerer would just die to a sword if they were sliced in the head. And Maki does point this out. She makes a statement in chapter 215 directly from the raw Japanese translation. Even if he won't die, can he heal from wounds inflicted by my soul split katana using reverse curse technique? Maki just doesn't know if it can be healed with reverse curse. Since Yuji told her this guy won't die even if you kill him, she chooses not to use the blade in an effort to capture Sukuna even if it kills him. I imagine she doesn't want to use her sword as a precaution despite the killing part of her statement. So can reverse curse technique heal the soul? Well, it's more of a 50-50 type thing, but my answer would be probably yes. If cursed spirits like Naoya can heal from it, and if you take Sukuna's example with Jogo, the finger bearer curse, healing from it with basic negative energy, then there is no real reason why reverse curse wouldn't work the same on human flesh, since the soul is the body and the body the soul. A better question would be, does Sukuna damage the soul in the first place? And I would say no, he doesn't. Like I just mentioned, cursed spirits are healing from his attacks, and even Gojo recently just blatantly has been healing with reverse curse technique. I think the only reason Inumaki and Angel couldn't get their arms back is because reverse curse technique has its limits. It could be a time limit, a skill limitation, or it could be complexity. Gege has been so incredibly vague in terms of dismemberment and reverse curse technique, so more evidence is necessary before jumping to conclusions, but I don't think it's anything to do with the soul. Akari is a pretty weird case. It's very strange how he got his arm back, yet Angel and Inumaki did not. Maybe it has to do with Shoko and Yuta's understanding of the soul and how they could heal them. Maybe it's just Hakari's binding vow and how that worked. Maybe he has a new domain seal to work with. I truly do not know. So please, with you awesome brothers and sisters, comment below. I told you my thoughts and all the facts that I've considered, but what do you guys think? Why is this such an overcomplicated topic? Because if you think soul damage is an irreversible outcome, you can't heal from it, no reverse curse technique or anything, that leaves a lot more questions than it does answers. And I'm sure Gege will probably confirm this subject in the future, and I'll look back on this video and see which points we are wrong at. But until then, this has been Enemy Stand User, and I'll see you awesome guys in the next one. Bye-bye.